Tonight on Reporting Scotland, she was a popular, smiley and happy young girl. Tributes are paid to Alicia MacPhail, the 6-year-old whose body was found in woodland on the Isle of Bute. Scotland sees the highest number of drug-related deaths since records began, according to the latest figures.
There was probably an idea that this might happen to you, but the drive to kind of keep using is very, very selfish.
Also on the programme, more than 300 jobs have been saved at Fife-based furniture manufacturers Havelock Europa, who've been bought out of administration. Urgent warnings: the proposed Cool Links golf course could destroy rare habitats. International experts advise the Scottish Government to call in the decision. And this young football fan scoops gold dust tickets for the World Cup final in Russia after a video of him went viral. Hello, good evening. A happy, smiley girl who will be sadly missed. Tributes have been paid to 6-year-old Alicia MacPhail, whose body was found on Bute yesterday morning. Police are treating her death as unexplained until the results of a post-mortem are known. Detectives say a large number of people have come forward to help the investigation, but they're still asking anyone with information to get in touch. Katie Hunter reports.
Touching tributes to Alicia MacPhail. Many left by young children who have been coming here throughout the day. The 6-year-old went missing yesterday morning. Her body was found less than 3 hours later in woodland near Ardbeg Road. Forensic experts have been examining the house where it's understood Alicia was staying with her grandparents, as well as the area where her body was found. The 6-year-old's death has stunned people living here.
Really sick to my stomach when you have children, your own grandchildren. It's just heartbreaking. Couldn't understand, I can't understand what the family's going through. Nobody could.
Alicia lived in North Lanarkshire and went to school in Airdrie. Her head teacher has described her as a happy, smiley girl who will be sadly missed. Many other people in this community remember Alicia in a similar way, but there's disbelief the little girl they knew is now in the news under such sad circumstances.
I heard the news yesterday there was a girl found, but I never knew it was her. She would come in most mornings into the shop, buying snacks for playtime with her mum, sometimes with her dad. Lovely wee girl. I'm just speechless to hear that it was actually her, you know.
Back on Bute, police officers from mainland Scotland have been called in to help with the investigation and reassure the community. Away from the police activity, local churches have opened their doors so people can reflect.
I think my personal reaction is exactly the same as everybody else's. I'm stunned and I'm lost for words, and this is not the sort of thing that we're used to in our community, whatever it is. It's just tragic.
A tragedy that has stunned 2 Scottish communities and left many people looking for answers about what happened to Alicia.
And Katie Hunter is still on Rothsay. Katie, what's the latest?
Well, in the last hour or so, Alicia's parents or members of her family have been here to pay their own tribute. They were with police officers and understandably very upset. Now, a post-mortem was held this afternoon. We're expecting an update from the police tonight at 7:30, but until then, they are treating this death as unexplained. Now, police say they have gathered a significant amount of information since their public appeal last night, but they are still asking anyone who has any information about Alicia's disappearance to come forward.
Katie, thank you. Scotland saw the highest number of drug-related deaths last year since records began. Almost 1,000 people died in 2017. Those working with addicts say reducing that number needs to be a top priority for the Scottish Government. Initially due in the spring, ministers today revealed their new drug strategy, which will now be published in the autumn. Stephen Godden reports.
Yeah, I was sitting in a chapel at a friend's funeral, and as soon as I left there, I went and used drugs.
In the grip of a heroin addiction he's now left behind, the prospect of death was a secondary concern.
There was probably an idea that this might happen to you, but the drive to kind of keep using is very, very selfish.
For an increasing number of Scots, the consequences are proving fatal. In 2017, there were 934 drug-related deaths, 8% up on last year and the highest ever recorded. A decade ago, there were half that number. It's now roughly 2.5 times the death rate for the rest of the UK. Opiates such as heroin, morphine and methadone are responsible for the most deaths, and those most likely to die are men aged over 35. Once again, these figures have drawn attention to the so-called train-spotting generation.
These are individuals who have used for many, many years, and that has an impact on the scale of overdose. But I think it's also fair to say that one of the big issues is that people are dying out with treatment. So people are dropping out of treatment and as a consequence are using more dangerously, more chaotically and putting themselves at greater risk of overdose.
As a GP in Edinburgh's Muirhouse for 35 years, Roy Robertson has seen the problems firsthand and considered the question, what can be done?
This sector has been cut back and this sector has been disinvested in rather than invested in. And there is a promise of more money, of £20 million per year in a recent published document from the Scottish Government. And that sounds like a lot of money, but it isn't with a problem like this. You need more? We need more, unfortunately.
As an advisor to the Scottish Government, Roy Robertson describes the 10-year-old drug strategy as out of date. Refreshing it, he says, presents an opportunity. A new strategy was due in the spring, but ministers are still working on it. It's now expected in the autumn.
First of all, we accept that the numbers of deaths are going up and we need to do something about it. Clearly the issues that we're having to grapple with are complex, and I think it's really important we get this right.
As the politicians ponder solutions, Julie Bigley continues to run a support group in Ayrshire. Last April, her nephew Graham died of an overdose, the 5th family member lost to drugs.
When they talk about figures, drug-related figures, they're people. They're men, they're women, they're boys, they're girls, whatever. It's people's families. It's no figure, Ken, and they don't look at it like that's their loved one.
More families than ever are feeling that pain. Helping others to avoid it is a shared ambition, still waiting for a concrete plan. Stephen Godden, reporting Scotland.
The UK government has said it will pay the costs of any policing of a visit by US President Donald Trump to Scotland next week. Police Scotland has warned a visit here could cost £5 million. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley is at Westminster for us. And Nick, the Treasury had been under pressure to confirm that it would cover these costs.
Yeah, it had, Laura. There's been no confirmation yet that President Trump will visit, but it's widely thought he will be in Scotland late next week, potentially at one or indeed both of his golf courses. Now, protests have been planned in Glasgow and Edinburgh, and Police Scotland have been making their own contingency plans too. We learned last week they could involve up to 5,000 officers and a cost of up to £5 million. Now, policing is of course devolved to the Scottish Parliament, but the Scottish Government argued that the UK Government should foot the bill for this because this was a foreign leader coming at the invitation of the UK Government. In effect, today, the Treasury has agreed. It said it will ring-fence up to £5 million for if that controversial presidential visit is confirmed.
Thank you, Nick. More than 300 jobs have been secured after a Fife-based furniture maker was bought out of administration. Havelock Europa, which supplies shops and public buildings, had suffered a drop in orders. Our business and economy editor, Douglas Fraser, is here. Douglas, this sounds like good news, but is it?
It sounds like very good news. Havelock Europa has its roots in Kirkcaldy going back nearly 150 years in the specialist joinery business of shop fitting. In recent years, it's been struggling because bank branches and retail chains have been shrinking so much. And with a recent public warning that it was in financial trouble, its supplier credit dried up. So after what union members say has been an incredibly tense few days, it was put in administration today, knowing that immediately it would be bought over by Our Capital. That's a private equity fund that invests in turning around distressed companies. Now, the management team stays in place with more time and capital to win new customers in new growing sectors, such as furnishing new hotels and student accommodation. They were already doing schools and colleges. With more than 300 staff, no redundancies are planned, but there's no guarantee that there won't be any. This is going to take time. The big question for the workforce is how long Our Capital is going to commit. Turnaround specialists tend to, they have an exit plan in view, they exist to make profit, they tend to be impatient. The management sounds confident in this case that it's going to be different because the core business remains strong.
Douglas, many thanks. An international panel of environmental experts has urged Scottish ministers to urgently call in a controversial decision to allow a golf course to be built on an area of sand dunes in Sutherland. The World Commission on Protected Areas say cool links will lose rare coastal habitats if the course goes ahead. The developer insists it intends to enhance rather than destroy the site's biodiversity. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane reports.
It's an unspoilt wilderness on Sutherland's east coast, and an American businessman now has permission to build a championship golf course on these dunes. He says it'll bring hundreds of jobs, but environmental groups say it'll destroy a rare habitat. Speaking from Canada, this member of a global committee on protected land says ministers now need to step in.
Scotland can actually play a leadership role in the protection of these rare and unique ecosystems. And in fact, if countries such as Scotland or where I sit in Canada, if we're not able as countries such as ours to meet these international obligations, what message are we sending to other countries?
Permission was given by Highland Council last month, despite officials recommending refusal. Concerns were raised, but the developer says he'll enhance the area.
This site has been overlooked for decades, and it's evolving into what it never should have been. It's being overtaken by bracken and gorse, and so we have a real opportunity to turn this site ecologically into a tremendous asset that frankly isn't happening today.
Sound familiar? It's not the first golf course to be built on a site of special scientific interest. Donald Trump fought a long battle to achieve the same in Aberdeenshire. The difference is many local people in Sutherland strongly support the latest plan and the jobs it could bring.
I think that were Scottish Government ministers prepared to call this in, it would be a slap in the face for the local democratic decision process.
Villagers say this would be work which is much needed, but environmental groups say it shouldn't be a trade-off and that this intervention is significant.
The intervention by the World Commission on Protected Areas is extraordinary. I can't remember in my professional career an international organisation like this coming in to comment on the potential destruction of a protected site in Scotland.
Ministers say they still haven't been officially notified by the council that permission has been granted. When they are, they'll decide whether or not to call it in. Kevin Keane reporting, Scotland, Cool Links.
More than 1,500 firearms have been surrendered as part of a 2-week amnesty. Police Scotland's campaign aimed to stop firearms falling into the hands of criminals. Weapons handed into stations included a machine gun and a World War I pistol.
There's shotguns there that we could load today and we could fire today. Those are not potentially ever going to be in the hands of criminals. Those will now go for destruction. I think that makes Scotland a safer place. Does it make in itself the only approach to making Scotland a safer place? Absolutely not. Policing has a number of methods to achieve that, and this was one opportunity.
Scottish Water has urged people across Scotland to begin using water wisely as the sustained dry weather continues. It says usage has increased significantly in recent days. Well, Katrina Renton has more now. Katrina.
Well, Laura, who would ever have thought we'd be talking about this? And you can see there's still plenty of water in the River Clyde here this evening, but with this dry and sunny spell set to continue not just this week, next week, but it might even stay dry for much of the rest of the month. So Scottish Water are urging us to be careful. So here are their top tips for saving water. Now, they're asking us to spend a little bit less time in the shower. If you're watering the garden, to use a watering can rather than a hose. And if you're washing the car, to use a bucket rather than a hose. And don't switch your dishwasher or washing machine on until they are fully loaded. That's the advice. It might sound like common sense, but demand is up. Now, this is not like Northern Ireland. It's not a hosepipe ban, but Scottish Water are having to produce more than 140 million litres of extra water every day. That's about 10% more than on an average day. And of course, if this continues over a prolonged period, then stocks in the reservoirs will go down. So that message, as you said, Laura, use your water wisely.
Katrina, thank you. You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's exactly 7:15. A reminder of tonight's top story. She was a popular, smiley and happy young girl. Tributes are paid to Alicia MacPhail, the 6-year-old from Airdrie whose body was found in woodland on the Isle of Bute. And still to come, the story of a mother who comes face to face with paramedics who saved her baby's life. 9 Aberdeen councillors suspended by Labour are facing disciplinary action after going against party leaders to form a coalition with the Conservatives. The case was discussed by a Labour disputes panel this afternoon in London. It's referred the matter to the party's National Constitutional Committee. It could lead to their expulsion. Rebecca Curran is at the Townhouse in Aberdeen tonight.
Yes, Laura, well, 14 months on and still no resolution for the so-called Aberdeen 9 as they have become known. They were suspended by the then Scottish Labour leader Kezia Dugdale, who had instructed them not to do a deal with the Conservatives. And since then, the group, led by Councillor Jenny Lang, have remained in power here with the Conservatives and the Independents. They insist they've done everything that the Labour Party has asked them, improving their commitment to anti-austerity policies. But when the party met in London today, its disputes panel have decided to forward the case to the National Constitutional Committee for further investigation. Well, the suspended councillors, they remain defiant. They've released a statement this evening saying that they look forward to getting the opportunity to address the committee and present their side of the story. Now, it's not clear when that can happen. It might be later on this year. But one of the sanctions that's available to the committee is expulsion from the party. And the group has previously said that if that were to happen, they would expect to remain on the ruling administration here. Well, the SNP group that has the highest number of councillors at Aberdeen City Council has released a statement. They say this whole situation is a complete farce and that Richard Leonard needs to get his house in order and expel the councillors for good.
Rebecca in Aberdeen, thank you. Banks should have to consult customers and businesses before closing local branches, according to MSPs. The recommendation from Holyrood's Economy Committee comes in the wake of RBS's decision to shut at least 52 of their Scottish branches. Ministers say an industry-wide agreement established 3 years ago to manage the way closures are handled reflects the interests of the banks rather than the needs of the customers and businesses. In our ongoing coverage of the NHS's 70th anniversary, today we hear the story of one mother whose baby's life was at risk following sudden heart failure. She meets the paramedic crew who stepped in to save her child. Ian Hamilton has the story.
In December of 2016, 4-week-old Beth suddenly fell ill.
Beth woke up kind of early morning just for a normal feed. I fed her. She wasn't happy at all, just kind of a bit fussy, and then all of a sudden let out this really high-pitched squeal. Her whole body just went floppy. I put her on the bed, turned the lights on, saw that she was completely grey in colour. She wasn't breathing. It was clear something was very wrong.
3 Edinburgh paramedics were coming to the end of their shift.
The call came in to us through the radio and that a baby was in cardiac arrest.
I went upstairs in the house and I found Mum resuscitating the baby up in one of the bedrooms. I just took over from Mum, put baby in my arms, done some resuscitation on the way down the stairs and told Mum to follow me down to the ambulance.
The ambulance team were here within minutes and to have her essentially gone at home, you know, I remember shouting to my husband, she's dead, we've lost her.
You're administering an electric shock, basically, to defibrillate a child, which certainly something I'd never done before. So
hugely stressful.
Very
hugely.
stressful.
Very rare as well.
Yeah, uncommon.
You're trying to recall all the training and whatnot that you've received, but more often than not, you're just looking at your team for support, and everyone's trying to do the best that they can. Circumstances.
At what point do you know it's working?
When she cried, was it not?
Yep, when she cried.
When she cried.
And then we nearly cried as well.
It's a lion.
18 months on, Beth is doing really well.
I've always wondered when, you know, an ambulance skites by, you always think, oh, is that them? Is that the, you know, the team that saved her?
And now she's getting the chance to meet them.
Here's Beth.
She's huge.
Hello.
Ambulance.
Say hi. And more ambulances out there.
Yeah,
You going to say hello? These are very important people for you, Beth.
I will remember Beth forever, to be honest.
I mean, it is remarkable what they do. It's incredible. She's here. She's doing amazingly well. They saved her.
Air Force Squadron 603 has been given the freedom of the City of Edinburgh. It's the first time such an honour has been granted to the RAF. Following the ceremony at the City Chambers, the squadron paraded down the Royal Mile to the Palace of Holyrood House, where they attended a reception hosted by the Queen. Now, young Alex Meiklejohn from Edinburgh went to Russia to cheer on Poland because his mum's Polish. Both he and his team were only there for the group stage. But after a video of him being consoled by rival fans went viral, Alex received surprise tickets for the final. Alistair Lamont has the story.
Oh, what a strike that was.
This is Alex Meiklejohn. On the face of it, just a normal 6-year-old having a kickabout with his dad in the back garden. But if you think Alex looks familiar, Poland's early exit left their supporters distraught. Alex especially so. But this video of him being consoled by Colombia fans went viral. The video also struck a chord with FIFA, the World Cup organisers.
If you had any nice videos or photos of the fans come together as one celebrating the World Cup, the friendliness, hashtag this and upload it and we'll see what happens. I tried that, I did it, turns out it's a competition and we've actually won the competition through that 15-second video.
And the prize is?
The prize is an all expenses paid trip to the World Cup final in Moscow next week for me and Alex.
How are you feeling about going back to Russia? Going back to Moscow? Are you excited?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think you could maybe take me with you?
No.
No? Who's going?
Me and Daddy.
The Meiklejohns are a well-travelled family, but on this occasion the closest poor mum Ivona will get to the trip is packing Alex's case.
Mommy's gonna take you to the airport and Mommy's gonna cry at the airport.
It's been the kind of summer holiday that dreams are made of for young Alex Meiklejohn, and it's about to get even better. A week on Friday, he and Dad Ian head back out to Moscow for the World Cup final. Poland won't be in it, Scotland certainly won't be in it, but you get the feeling those two are going to enjoy themselves nonetheless. Alistair Lamont reporting Scotland in Edinburgh.
More on that very dry weather now with Christopher. Good evening.
Good evening, Laura. Thank you very much. Hello there. Good evening to you at home. It was another dry and sunny one for most of us. Warm at times. 27 degrees in Aviemore, 25 degrees for many inland areas, and lovely photos from our weather watchers. The one common theme, dry and staying dry tonight. Bit of cloud pushing in from the North Sea to reach many central, southern and western parts. Temperatures at times holding in the teens. So too tomorrow, and that familiar pattern of high pressure overhead. There is low pressure nearby up towards Iceland, and this weather front will come our way on Thursday. Unlikely to bring us any rain though. Tomorrow, another dry day. Some cloud around through the morning, particularly for central, southern and western areas. Some early sunshine in the northeast, but even if it starts off cloudy, the cloud will thin and break. There's small chance of a shower across central and southern Scotland where we have that thicker cloud, but it really is a small chance. For most, another dry day. And temperatures up to around 25 Celsius across west central Scotland, low 20s elsewhere. So long spells of sunshine across the northeast. For Inverness-shire up towards Caithness, actually the chance of catching a shower here through the late afternoon and early evening. but it's not guaranteed. Not everyone will see them. So, through the rest of the afternoon into the evening, there's those showers just starting to kick off in the far north, but elsewhere, once again, dry. And then to Thursday, that weather front we saw a moment ago sweeps through, bringing some cloudy skies, bit of a breeze in the north and a fresher feel. Temperatures down a notch, where afternoon highs there up to around 18 to 22 Celsius. And that cooler feel still with us on Friday. Cloudy in the northwest, the sunshine though holding on for central, southern and eastern parts. And so to the weekend, high pressure with us once again. We've got this weather front trying to edge in across the northwest, but really it's just going to bring some cloud through the highlands and islands, perhaps a few showers at times. The further south and east that you are, plenty of sunshine, temperatures on the up, highs of 25. That's the forecast.
Chris, thank you. Now, a reminder of tonight's main news. A healthcare professional has been arrested in Cheshire on suspicion of murdering 8 babies and trying to murder 6 others. It's part of an investigation into the neonatal unit at the Countess of Cheshire Hospital. Tributes have been paid to 6-year-old Alicia MacPhail, whose body was found on Butte yesterday morning. Police are treating her death as unexplained until the results of a post-mortem are known. Detectives say a large number of people have come forward to help the investigation, but they're still asking anyone with information to get in touch. And that's Reporting Scotland for now. I'll be back with the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, from everyone here on the team in Glasgow and right across the country, have a great evening. See you later.